I know we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but do you mind? Can we talk about? We've been wanting to talk about Grover House on this podcast for like over a year. Can we chat about that a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I can give you guys some really funny cliff notes about it. Imagine a guy who really wants to be a troop. He's not a troop. He's a military contractor, electrical engineer.
Very familiar with this exact guy, by the way. Where I grew up, there are lots of...
This is a specific breed of guy who would have...
I was going to say there's a million of these kind of guys in the Midwest.
He would have a habit of going around and demanding people on the Something Awful forums would refer to him like, if they give him the same respect as a colonel. I think he used the term simulated colonel.
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because he earned the same amount as like a colonel, is what I've seen. Like it's either a colonel or a major, and he lived in, I'm not kidding, and I say this like 4 times, it's like, and when I covered it, it's like he owned a house in literally the Great Dismal Swamp. That's the area that he lived in. The water table is 6 inches below the surface of the earth. Jesus Christ. That's like when you see these images of Grover House where he's like, you know, knee deep in mud, it's because he's literally in a swamp. And
his house is actively sinking.
Yeah, like it's so badly built.
He built the whole thing himself. And that's were there building permits involved in this? Because usually they won't let you do that.
He got building permits for everything. The most fucked up part about it is, like the rumor is he self-certified his building himself. He got himself certified as a city like inspector. I couldn't find anything to confirm that.
Dude,
which saddens
I'm choosing
me.
to believe that because that's kind of beast mode. If you're able to do that,
it's easy to believe if you've seen the interior photos, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He kept on like. It's bad, but when he built the frame,
we're talking anyway. Why don't you from the top? What's we'll do the introductions after this. What for the uninitiated? What was Grover House from the very beginning? Let's just
Grover House was a very bad early 2000s DIY project built by a guy in a swamp, like cataloged on Something Awful. You might have seen it on Twitter. There was I think the biggest thread of it is from a now suspended account. Is from someone called Eliza, and it was documenting that because no one normal without insane brainworms is going to buy a Something Awful account and archives access to do this ever again. Like no one wants
pioneers. Only true pioneers of the internet would ever do that.
No one wants to spend $20 to see a post from 2002. Like that's just not the thing. But
that was back. But Jesus Christ,
it was quite a long time ago. Yeah, it's.
If you don't know what Grover House is or what we're talking about, I know for a fact that like over half of the people listening will have at least seen the house, pictures of the house. It's the fucked up house from the internet. If you don't know what it is,
you say Grover House. You say Grover House, you will activate someone like a Manchurian Candidate, and they'll be like, "Oh shit, I know about Grover House," and they'll just go and like start rambling about load-bearing drywall.
No, it's so iconic to me that I always forget the name of this house, but I just. Now that we're talking about it, I know exactly. I can picture the entire thread in my mind.
You can picture like the semicircular window and the fact that it's like when you're upstairs,
the American Gothic window,
in the finished attic lounge that he made with like 7 HVAC vents blasting in your eyeballs while you're watching like a Midwest football game.
Do you think he like takes contracts? Could I contract him to make me a house? I kind of want his style. I think so. People dunked on this guy a lot. Maybe he was going to be like the next big architect, and no one really like gave him the time of day.
He actually was ahead of the curve because every house that I ever built in Minecraft looked like that.
The thread itself is full of people going, "Great job, Grover! You're doing really well." And I think that's because he was a forum mod and had like a real big habit of like stamping on people with bans. So no one was shitting on him at the time.
Yeah, that's definitely people like at gunpoint. You know, there's multiple guns at their head. You have to compliment him, otherwise you will be blocked or suspended. I don't know exactly how.
Yeah, he was a mod of the military sub forum on Something Awful called Goons and Platoons.
So fucking badass, dude.
So wait, okay. I feel like we moved past the simulated captain.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that about? Yeah. So he just like made up his rank, and
he was like, a military contractor and said, "Hey, you can give me the respect of a colonel because I earn the same amount as one according to the DoD pay scale." It's just,
Okay, but
God, that's sick.
with military guys, I'm sorry, I'm like, not trying to disrespect the troops here, but what I'm saying is it's not hard to make more than guys in the military. Like,
Yeah.
I looked it up. It's not a lot of money.
yeah.
Like, it might have been his house, like, was only $80,000 in Virginia. Like, that's actually quite a cheap house. Before he started putting another 100,000, 80,000 into it by the time he was done.
$160,000 into a house in Virginia in 2002 is actually insanely expensive.
Yeah,
Depending
it's so
what part, but,
expensive.
like,
And for anybody who still has no idea what we're talking about, this house looks from the outside. It's like full of weird ditches in the lawn, and it looks like maybe it's paper mache. And on the inside, it's like unsupported banisters everywhere. It looks like. It's insane to me that it cost as much as you're saying it cost.
Bro was doing like a kindergarten art project, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, he melted the side of his house when he pulled out the barbecue for like summer. He was cooking burgers, and he had vinyl siding.
that's normal wear and tear.
Wait, so I don't know if I've ever heard like where it is today. Is that house still up? Is
He
it
still owns
standing?
it.
He still owns it.
Yeah.
Does he live there?
People take selfies in front of it sometimes.
He still lives there from like the rule I've been in my later episodes, as I'm saying when I'm doing my scripts, is like, don't touch the poop, don't actually interact with these people. Some of them are still very much people existing in these places, but he apparently still owns it, and he now has cacti in the front garden in a swamp.
See, I kind of respect
cacti.
Yeah, he's got swamp cacti. Yeah,
I've never, I have a biology degree. I have gone to swamps. I've gone to bogs. I've gone to fens. I've seen all of this. I have learned about the different ecosystems, the different types of environments. I don't think I've ever come across a wetland cactus. That's brand new for me.
Put a sargasso cactus in a swamp. I just looked it up. That's the total house, like all in today's money, would have been, if you're doing this now, would be nearly $260,000.
That makes me so upset for him.
Very upset for him.
At him.
I respect that he's still there, though. Like, he put in the work. He did it all himself. He truly did. And he's like, this is my home. As shitty as it might be, this is it.
Is he still on the forums?
He hasn't posted for quite a few years at this point. No. I think like he basically, whenever he'd turn up, people would just start shitting on him by the end.
Yeah,
like threads would just get turned into mock threads.
Destroyed something beautiful by running him off the internet.
Well, it was his history of the military like subforum, and he had like such a huge like gun pervert boner, but for the F-22 Raptor. So like whenever like, oh, the F-22 Raptor has more problems, like, because it always has problems, it's the F-22 Raptor, people would be like, hey, look, Grover, your baby's fucking stupid, and it would just turn into a Grover House mock thread all over again.
See, that's really sad. He's the type of guy that you just like watch from a distance. You don't poke him too hard. You don't want to upset him. You don't want to like ruin his habitat, because he'll run away. He'll scatter. You don't want that for people like this who are providing so much for the world, so much content, so much to like learn about the human spirit. And it's a shame that people poked him a little too much.
Yeah. He's like a legendary Pokemon, man. Like, you don't capture it. You just appreciate the experience, like Ash Ketchum in the pilot episode.
I was thinking about how I would describe what I do compared to like Western Kabuki, where right now what you guys are doing, it's kind of like going to the Safari Zone in Pokemon, but you're finding perverts. Like, really. And what I'm doing
is a great description of the show. Yeah,
you're the Professor Oak.
What I'm doing is more like freak archaeology. Like, I'm just going back and just like digging up like a fossilized freak. Like, I just recently did a huge thing going through the time the Ultimate Warrior tried to sue Something Awful. Is like my next thing I'm working on.
I forgot about that.
It's so good.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
We've got probably a million stories like this that we're going to tell on this podcast. But that's a good place to open it up.
The pervert archaeologist. More. Yeah.
Welcome to Western Kabuki. My name is Caleb. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Alex. How you doing, pal?
I'm so delighted to have started hearing these stories. May they continue for the next however long.
Yeah. June, how are you?
It's been a somber week. David Lynch passed away
Yeah.
the last week, and that's sad. That's really sad. But something that's a little bit harder right now for me is Cat Turd. He's
in the hospital. Pray for our boy.
he's not doing super well. I'm gonna say a little prayer for him really quick.
Yeah, can we have a moment of silence for Cat Turd? A moment of silence, reflection, prayer.
You can, bow your head. I'm just gonna say a few words. Jesus, please surround Cat Turd with your holy angels. Give him peace beyond understanding and heal him, Lord. Amen.
Shouts out to our friend Cat Turd.
Friend of the show. Oh, love that dude.
Genuine. He genuinely is. I've been compiling my dream guest list, and he's on it for sure. That might upset.
I would love to meet him.
I would, dude. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. We're joined by a good friend of the show who has done, you may recognize him from our Discord or some of the graphic design work he's done for us. Thank you again for the Palestine fundraiser flyer that you made for us. And
yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Just a good buddy, Cameron from the All This for $10 podcast. That is a podcast, Cameron, I think that we're describing it, you're the archaeologist of a dead forum, Something Awful.
Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet everyone. Nice to...
Or more so the pervert archaeologist.
Yes. Pervert archaeologist of a 25-year-old comedy forum. Yeah. Like, it's been around that long. But there are members now that are younger than 9/11, which is shocking people to this day. That's always hard to think about.
It's one of those websites that I'm always shocked. Well, not as much recently because I've started paying a little bit more attention to it. But when I started, like in the last few years, looking like, oh, Something Awful has a lot of history, I didn't know it was still around until like a year ago. I thought it was just a dead website.
No, it's still got the source. Last week, someone made a panicked post that they drank the liquid out of a do-it-yourself-at-home DNA test.
They're going to start living out the movie The Substance.
Yeah,
that's going to happen to them.
It's still got the juice. Like occasionally, like it just like occasionally a post will pop up and you're like, yeah, we still got it. Like, he's still going strong. It's like seeing like, 50-year-old pro wrestler come out of retirement for one more match. And like, yeah, he's still going.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk a little bit about just the history of Something Awful. I'm not sure what order episodes are going to come out, but I guess, corollary to the episode we're recording now is kind of a history of 4chan that we're also recording. So you're going to get a little bit of crossover because you can't really tell one story without the other. But this one we're going to go to kind of how 4chan, there was a schism. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups all of a sudden.
How'd that happen?
While we're waiting for Caleb to fix his hiccups, I actually need to come with some receipts off of a previous episode. It was the Family Matters one with Diana.
Oh, yeah.
Someone pointed out in the Discord torch, June, you noted that Elon's not the kind of racist to do a Hitler salute.
Yeah.
I was, did I say that?
Yeah. I don't remember that. I saw someone post that, though.
Someone posted torch in the Discord posted that. So
he didn't do just one,
he did
ass. Two at the inauguration. Goddamn.
I was confident. I have to say, at that moment, I don't even remember myself saying that. There's things I say during this podcast where people will listen to it and bring it up to me, and I'm like, I said that, or like they'll be like, oh, when you talked about this, it's like we did an episode about that. Like I forget all the time, but fuck, damn, hold me accountable for that one. God damn.
I wonder if Elon heard that episode and was like, fuck it, I'm gonna, because he's watching every move that June makes.
I'll show them. That's my Elon impression.
My favorite thing about the Nazi salute is that he had like a cowlick on the back of his hair, like his hair was fucked up when he did it, so he just looked like a greasy, like the quintessential greasy nerd trying to be cool while he was Sieg Heiling.
The worst part for me was the little grunt.
I can't believe like anyone's denying that's what it was too. Like that's the craziest thing to me. And it's like you watch it and it's like if you see the picture, it's like, okay, people have made that specific gesture before, like you sometimes wave and your hand will be up in the air. No, he did it from his chest. Yeah, like, man. Come on.
Twice. Also, the one thing that I don't understand about this is like, oh, is this a Roman salute?
It's like, that's
we're not Romans. We're not Rome. Why are you doing a Roman salute? Let's say it is a Roman salute. Why are you doing that? There's no reason to do a Roman salute.
People are also really big experts on the Bellamy salute, which stopped being used in 1942 for some reason. I guess we'll never know.
There's like exactly. There's a very
hard to
good
say.
reason we don't do those things anymore.
No, it's been like the craziest thing in my life. You know, there's a lot of crazy things, but watching with my own eyes play out what happened with he did the Nazi salute, and then the media is like, we don't know, experts aren't sure, and it's like, what do you mean you're not sure? What do you mean? Come on,
I think
we saw it.
Pretty sure.
Yeah,
even the fucking ADL was like, oh, it's just an emotional moment or something. What would they say? I don't. Who gives a fuck?
Oh, well, they said that it's because he has Asperger's. That's been the thing. Is like. Listen, I have Asperger's.
He's
blah, blah,
just
blah.
a boy. He's just a 52-year-old boy.
He's just autistic.
Guy who takes Ritalin and starts goose stepping. I don't know.
I don't know. I know a lot of autistic and people with autism and people with Asperger's. I don't think I've ever witnessed them do a Nazi salute. I know some awkward people. Never seen that happen. Who's to say, though? I guess who's to say? We really don't know. My eyes might be lying to me.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get right into this then.
Okay. Should I tell you about how some guy is like the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, but instead of being shot, it's anime pornography, I guess?
Yep. That I was going to say, if there's anything you wanted to pitch on the top-ish of the episode about your podcast, but yeah, that's a good way to start it too. That's
a good way to jump out. Look,
was that how Something Awful was founded? Was this guy?
No, I guess I'll start right from the top. I run a little podcast where I pull out the legends and sagas stories from Something Awful. Like there's Grover House, there's the Doobie's Doghouse, which is like a Kickstarter for a guy in Alabama selling hot dogs. So he wanted to make a hot dog stand called Doobie's Doghouse, home of the frog dog. So goons like crowdfunded it, and turns out the guy in Alabama was racist. Like there's like the guy that wanted to build a house in the woods out of his back of his box truck. Like I have 80 episodes
pictures
on my
box
list
truck
to go through, and that's just the things off the top of my head. There is so many things.
I do like when there's people like that have like just the most insane idea in the world, and then they might be racist, and people are like, there were no clues, and it's like, okay, them not being one of the most insane people in the world didn't clue you in that they might not be all there.
The guy's like a walking John 3:16 van. You know what I mean? Like, the clues are always there.
Yeah.
So Something Awful, you guys have covered it a bit before. It's a dead gay comedy forum. It's never been deader, never been gayer than it has today, and the next day will be even deader, even gayer.
You're selling me on it immediately, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when it was founded, Lotax, the now dead founder of the website, rest in piss, he put up a paywall and charged people $10 to join. Basically, there's a lot of like an absurd result where people would pay, like some guy paid hundreds of dollars to access the forums. Over time, they just keep getting banned and have to pay $10 to get unbanned. The guy
about
that
$50 or $60 is just Something Awful in my lifetime. But I'm in my late 30s now, so that's, I think, somewhat reasonable.
Great return on investment. The guy that caused that came back. Actually, he posted on a new account, and the admins found it and unbanned that account that caused the $10 paywall to go up. Because I was going
to ask you. So there was one guy that was so annoying that he spawned the creation of the paywall. That's that guy. He's back.
Yeah, shout out to, what was his name? I had it written down here because I wanted to
was it
so awesome.
Was it the actual first instance of a paywall ever online?
I can't say for sure otherwise, but it's very
the biggest,
rare.
You know what I mean? Like it was a big deal, and it was actually a fascinating concept because it really did, like, especially if you like, because a forum is different than Twitter. You know, there's no like following followers, but people still rose to notoriety. You saw the same people on bigger threads and stuff, and so there was a sense of like shame, or like you want to keep your account or whatever. That's like, okay, I don't want to spend. And for the record, also back then, spending money on the internet was a little bit more difficult. It was not very simple.
People had to like PayPal Lotax $10 somehow, but they'd have to go to their post office and give the post office person $10 to get it on the internet.
Was not set up for pay. Yeah, so like to pay $10 at this point, like it kept people on their best behavior.
Everyone I know at the time was very scared of being scammed.
Yeah.
Like any online payments would just like you would get hacked or something.
But the other thing about having been on the Something Awful forums is that there were a lot of unstable people who were mods there, and it was a lot of people just being like, well, I know you didn't do anything wrong, but like you looked at me wrong today, you're done.
Yeah, all the time.
Even Lotax himself had like a trigger finger. The biggest one, actually, to segue back slightly onto topic, is he hated anime. That man had like despised cartoons. So he got really sick of people posting it, and he got really sick of when people would like post into the general bullshit. That's like the general forum, and that would get flooded one type of post, and he'd make like splinter forums. So that's how you get something like, you know, the Crackhead Clubhouse, which is the drug forum. You'd eventually get like Goons and Platoons, which is the soldier subforum for like all the
This is
goons
exactly
that are
how the
serving.
Western Kabuki Discord has been siloed, by the way. Is like I get annoyed by something somebody says, so, okay, here's a channel, do it there.
Yeah, so
we also have the Crackhead Den. I'm surprised. I didn't realize that we took inspiration from there, Caleb.
So he liked anime, but what he liked more than anime was the money that people would pay him to join the forum. So he did make a subforum to like silo them off into, so we didn't have to see it on a regular basis. The actual name of it, I don't feel that comfortable saying. It's ADTRW. Like there's some not great words there. It's mostly called, it's like the nice version of that is animated drawings to replace women. It's just called Vegeta in all caps, which is my favorite version of the name from recent eras. And he just let anime folks go wild in there. But this was like 2003. So like the internet, and it's kind of disappointing because the last episode of yours I listened to was also very pedo heavy, but the internet was very pedo heavy in 2003 as well. Like it's one of those things where like you look back and there was that like the old meme pedo bear. Like people like pedo bear was just like a meme, and it's like why was that like why did we have this little rapist bear?
Yeah, why is that a joke?
Rape. Like I mean, I guess that humor still exists, of course, but I just like it was just more widely accepted back then.
And it is, I guess, like widely accepted on Twitter under people's like legal names now, I guess is the only difference with their face, which is maybe worse. But, you know, it's basically what I was trying to say is that sort of stuff was always around in a weird way, in a different way.
Yeah. So I call this the poster's curse. Like you see this all the time where if you do something ironically, like making an account, like if you make an account pretending to be like a Goonagate weirdo, you will eventually get followers that are actual Goonagate weirdos and aren't along with the bit. Yeah. And that kind of happened with the anime like subforum, and it's like you get people going, oh no, she's actually a 10,000-year-old dragon, guys, ironically, and then you get the unironic actual like perverts coming in. And so basically there was a lot of like they had a thread called the Teenage Image Appreciation thread is the kind of shit that was going on there.
Teenage image.
Oh boy. Yes, no, yeah, not good. Like, you know, some guys apparently, and I don't want to dig too deep into it, they're labeled in like the little mini wiki that Something Awful has as gimmick pedophiles. Like they were pretending to be pedophiles, like
that's
Kane
hilarious.
as a pro wrestler. Like, but instead of like,
that's a crazy bit. Instead
of like, you know, hellfire powers and doing suplexes, you're just pretending to really like children. But not good. Lotax got like really trigger happy about this, as you should be, to be honest. Like under no circumstances do you have to hand it to Richard Kiyonka, but you know, he'd ban that sort of shit pretty quickly. But eventually
I stand with him on that one.
I stand with him on that one, like critical support in that time.
Yeah.
And look, he would eventually, like, he would keep banning people, and what would happen was a lot of SA subforums had offsite FTP servers and IRC channels. So like the Crackhead Clubhouse had a mailing list. ADTRW had so like they literally had an email mailing list. Be like, hey, do you guys want to try some like sweet Russian drugs that I found? Which is pretty sick. But ADTRW had, it was called Raspberry Heaven, which was like this, I think it's an IRC channel, and people would like, they'd get banned from the forums, but they'd keep posting on the IRC thing and they'd get kind of pissed. So that was basically their offsite little clubhouse with its own subculture. And back then, people would like lift a lot of like image macros, which is like the precursor to memes now. and post them on Something Awful, Lotax would hate those as well, and he'd come into like the anime forum and ban it. He'd just basically just keep moving through and just keep like smacking like pedos and weirdos in the head.
It's really interesting that like like Something Awful was kind of like the front lines of the modern internet in a lot of way, where like, yeah, those image macros were there, and he would like try to put a stop to that, like, and that sort of content is just kind of everywhere. Just like, imagine if he succeeded in his tyranny, maybe the internet would be a little bit better. Maybe he was unfairly judged.
I'll say this in Lotax's defense, like, bad person. Not a good guy.
Not a good guy. No, not
a good guy.
Not a good guy. Serial abuser. Like, not a good dude. But in this case, he was kind of right in banning pedophiles.
He had some okay ideas on how the internet would ideally work. Like the whole, I mean, that was kind of the slogan of the website, was the internet makes you stupid. And his, like, we talked about this a little bit, but he would say like, oh, everyone's talking about how the internet's going to revolutionize information, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be so great. He was kind of like a proto Ed Zitron, and he was like, actually, no one's talking about how the internet like fucking sucks and is making us awful and dumb and weird perverts, and is going to be, has this capacity for like
evil. Ed Zitron.
Yeah. A lot of the culture of the anime guys at the time was like kind of lifted wholesale from this little website in Japan called 2chan, which is like, already getting, like, I'm going back and reading this timeline. I'm like, that name's familiar. And he would just hate it. He'd immediately go, that's not a good thing. I want that off my site. But the people who were banned off would obviously still be hanging out in Raspberry Heaven, influencing that culture. Eventually, Lotax would get really sick. He'd just be like, no hentai. I'm declaring a war on hentai. I'm also declaring a war on furries. Furries were also really not liked on the internet at the time. Like, you might think they're not liked now. Furries were like,
it was like open season on furries.
Open season on furries, yeah. So that
like
brings
even offline at the time in that era, like people in real life would just like shit on furries, like for no specific reason, just that they were furries.
Just that they were furries, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very strange time. Not that I was around specifically for this, but that kind of persisted all the way through the early 2010s.
Yeah. So we get to the point where Lotax institutes the pedo cost, which is quite an infamous event where he bans about 25 of the internet's most notorious pedophiles in like a 3-month period.
All of Trump's administration.
Basically, like, there's a name that I have down here. It's in Encyclopedia, which is the little mini wiki like encyclopedia thing. He has very much like reformed his image now, but he was banned in the pedocost. He is now he tried to be a public face of Anonymous recently. Like, goons will know who this guy is if they've been around at the time. He was the founder of 420chan. This is all like actual recording, recorded stuff in Encyclopedia. I just kind of don't want to say the name on record because I don't want to get sued.
We'll have notes that we usually have notes that people can download. So we'll have all this in there. We don't want to. You don't want to make you say anything you don't want to.
There's a thing called 420chan.
420chan was founded by this guy because he was sick. He was mad that 4chan didn't have enough of a drug forum, but also no pro wrestling board.
Yeah.
He wanted a pro wrestling board. So, but he was one of the other guys. And the thing you have at the time, where you get like kind of start getting this fusion dance of perverts, is there was another Something Awful user who kind of got sick of all the bans and all his friends getting kicked off. Was this young guy called Moot, who was a Something Awful user. And around about the same time, he'd started experimenting with image board code. And he had been posting about, hey, check out my new website, anime sub forum people. It's called 4chan.
I didn't realize that Moot was a Something Awful user.
Yep.
I had no idea about that.
His account's still active. I was looking at it today just to like make sure that I wasn't imagining things, but I pulled it up.
Does he still post on there?
No, he has not posted since 2006, but he had a very active thread on Something Awful for about 3 years of going like, here's 4chan is what we're working on. Which is, he was there as active. And what happens was when you get like basically this is where you start getting that next breed of pervert showing up, like kind of like the Cars 3 Jackson Storm to Something Awful's Lightning McQueen. That's a dated reference, to be honest. But look, he was an active user of ADTRW and Raspberry Heaven. He was really interested in 2chan, so he started, like, he got a hold of its open source code. Like, all of 2chan was apparently open source. Translated a lot of the Japanese text via Alta Vista's online translator. So that's where we get like Anon from, was like just some Japanese text lifted and put into English. So he invited a lot of those users onto the site and like was advertising it as like, here's where you can come and discuss anime and manga with less moderation. So like, I don't want to say personally, like, some people could call it an offsite pedo forum.
Yeah, I was going to say pedos welcome here is the sign he put up in front of the door. Yeah.
So many of the initial 4chan moderators were banned Something Awful users from the pedo cost. It's just, yeah, it's like basically it is like the line is like, you feel like Charlie Day in that one meme where he's in front of all the red lines. But no, this is like the clearest line of them all. Like 4chan is the bastard child of Something Awful, because it was like directly as a result of Something Awful users getting like banned off. So like,
all these people got, other than being pedos. So like there was the pedos, but then there was just people that were banned because they liked anime
a little
manga.
Too much, or like, you know, like even just now, like someone just got banned for, I think, 100,000 hours for saying he found a teenage anime girl attractive. That's a ban list here. I brought the ban, like they've still got that stench, like the anime subforum still has that like it still has that permanent stain of that place where guys are jerking it to kids. Like, yeah, so it was a 100,000 hour probation, like, because he just said he found this teenage character attractive. Like, Something Awful's really not about that vibe anymore. But
it's crazy that basically the Elon Musk of the time on Something Awful, low tax, was just like banning people, whatever, for whatever reason. Of course, banning for pedophiles, great reason. Banning them for liking anime, insane reason. It's something that like an Elon Musk type of ego trip would induce. And that basically brought us 4chan, which I mean, you know, 4chan's not all evil. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. There's evil eras, especially in the political one, but like, not liking anime, like this one person not liking anime brought out Gamergate is basically what I'm trying to say. That's my theory.
Yeah, a Cheeto covered butterfly effect. Yeah, is kind of what we got. Like if the pedo course hadn't happened, like there's a very strong chance that like Donald Trump wouldn't have been elected. Like, look, I go into this.
That's insane.
I've gone into
wheels within wheels.
Wheels within wheels. Like, sure, you can make the argument that, like, Donald Trump stayed relevant because of like the 2007 writers' strike, and that meant that The Apprentice stayed on air. Like, you can pull so many random dominoes together to make sure that, like, he still becomes president. That this is the reason why.
Yeah,
but,
and
like,
I don't think there's a single specific reason, but all of it compounding on top of each other does create, you know, momentum in a lot of ways.
No, like, really, he's a symptom of like years of neoliberal failure. But like, like really what happens, like B itself, like, so the sub board, like B is actually a containment, like it's a kind of the random board, right? And then that it's kind of because the internet is kind of crap, and its founding DNA at the, like, 4chan's founding DNA is kind of like a Gotenks of anime porn and like inherent racism from 2chan.
They're linking up, yeah.
They're linking up, and they just kind of fusion dance of perverts to become 4chan.
We got an episode title: The Fusion Dance of Perverts.
Yeah, just it's basically Pol was actually made as a containment board for B. So that's where you get like Pol from, because like around the end of the Iraq War, people were getting a little racist for Moot's liking. I found a
so he had a limit.
He had a limit.
Okay.
I found an
he didn't
AMA.
ban them, but
No, he did not. I found an AMA from him, like the Reddit. Like Reddit used to have like actual celebrities answer questions for hours. And he turned up and did an AMA in like 2011. And he was asked, like, what do you think 10 years from now the lasting cultural legacy of 4chan will be?
Oh boy.
And he answered like that it shaped the internet and real life culture in a way that a few other communities and websites have.
He's kind of right, though.
And he's like, he was cooking in 2011. Like,
he knew what he had.
Like, do you think he's just sitting there kind of like Oppenheimer, just like staring off in the distance, just being like, oh no, I made this happen.
Now I am become pedophile.
Well, you know,
Gooner of worlds.
he left to become to work at what's it called?
Google.
He sold it. Yes, he sold it. I did make a note of this. 2015. So he
works
sold
at
it
Google?
to.
I don't know if he does
for like
anymore,
$1 million
but he did
and then
for
went to,
many
well, he
years.
started something else first.
He sold it in 2015 to a guy called Hiroyuki Nishimura. So they had acquired the ownership rights from 4chan without disclosing terms of the acquisition. Nishimura was the founder of 2chan. So basically bringing 4chan like full circle back to like its place, its birth, like a racist trout returning to the spawning pool.
Like my limited knowledge about 2chan in particular, I was, when I was in high school, this was in my senior year, I think that was, I don't know, 2014, maybe 2013, something like that. I had heard of 2chan and I was just like kind of curious. And I knew it wasn't, I think, I don't know if it even is any, like still to this day, but at the time it was still like a Japanese only website. You couldn't just like go on and read it. No, but I was just like curious, and I went on and I like clicked around and I was like, I am too scared to do this longer. So I got like terrified being on this website 2chan, and I never looked back.
I mean, even back in 2006, they were very like they did not like Americans joining. Like they really not about that. They were very insular. But obviously people would still join in, and ones that were good posters would fit in. An additional fun fact, another owner who brought in with Nishimura is actually the company that makes Nindroid figures. So if you own a Nindroid little figgy, little anime figgies of like Miku, you have potentially partially funded the purchase of 4chan.
Oh, great.
That's fucking crazy. What?
Yeah. Yeah, the parent
was that
company.
Like before Nindroids, or was that before? Or was that after?
No, Nindroid's been around since 2006.
We need like a 2016 era Trump person boycott. If you have one of those Miku figures, you need to post a video of yourself stomping it out and throwing it away.
Doing what?
We have to like come after anime again. Maybe this is the moment.
I'm telling you, Lotax had some alright ideas. I'm just saying.
We just need to convince the current owner of Something Awful to change his name to Lotax 2.
Lotax. Yeah.
And just stop
go down the righteous path. Yeah, go down the righteous path of glory.
Taxes. A great name for you would be Low Tax.
Like just the ban buttons just sitting there like the Green Goblin mask going, do it. Ban him. Yeah, like real like it's. And then you get like the additional like I sent Caleb this like domino meme. It's like, Low-Tax bans hentai, and then Donald Trump ends up stealing nuclear secrets. It's like the end domino, right? Like there's all these individual dominoes, and you get to this point where it's like there's no hard evidence to it, but it's tremendously obvious that Elon Musk, for example, has been like completely brain rotted from the inside out by like spending a little too much time on 4chan and then spending $44 billion to get bullied after that. But 4chan was he was definitely on there. You can just tell from the way
you can find the through line pathway that makes anyone insane if they're public enough, like Elon Musk, right? Like you can put the pieces in place and figure out the tea leaves. You can put that together yourself.
Yeah, it's the Evangelion thing. Like if somebody was like, Elon, don't you love 4chan? He would just respond with B.
yeah. Nerve.
Trips.
Yeah.
Just like I wouldn't put past him like try and put like trip codes on Twitter or something at some point, just to like his latest effort to fuck with the UI.
Ideas. God damn.
One of the worst ever do it.
That was, one of the things that people keep saying about him, but in particular when he made people start paying for verification, is like, oh, that's a low tax move.
He's doing the low tax speedrun at this point. Like,
God, we've been saying that for like 2.5 years now, though.
The low tax speedrun was like a solid 20 years. Like the low tax original run was 20 years. Like any speedrun's got to be any run faster than that's a speedrun, right? But like low tax, by the time he died, he had been outed as abusing 4 of his ex-wives. And sure, before the abuse came out, the forum had like replaced his spine through Kickstarter. Like he'd like had back problems, and then he was just doing copious amounts of drugs and trying to run down all of his money that he got before, so he didn't have to pay child support before like popping himself because he got finally outed in court, I think, as an abuser. So like we still got a little way to go. We're at the drugs. We just need like the horrific surgery. But like one of the things in my head's like it's kind of like how the Jan 6 guy tased himself in the balls kind of real. It's like everyone is like Elon had like a botched circumcision or something, and like that's his major injury that's going to catch up to him.
He's going to get like a Neuralink, and then Neuralink will tell him to kill himself.
The first person to get a publicly accessible Neuralink is going to have their brain hacked by Russian script kiddies, and it's just going to play caramel dancing for 24 hours unless I live in a Faraday cage. Like, that is my honest prediction.
Fucking
It's
grim.
it's not going to go well.
I hope not, for Elon at least.
Okay, so I think we have an idea of the horrors of B and 4chan and Poll. How does that kind of like we know what caused the schism, but like what's like the kind of the political underpinnings and everything that goes forward from this on Something Awful? Because it's kind of like it takes a while because it's still not a great place. It's a long time before it's like a respectable place where like there are rules and there aren't like racists and pedophiles everywhere. But like, how does this happen?
Look, they do keep banning a lot of the worst off. Like the pedophiles get straight up banned. Like you post anime porn, you're gone. Like get the fuck out. And eventually, like it does start mellowing down. Like I know when Gamergate popped around the first one, like the guy popped up with his post, and he was posting on every forum he could find. Like he went to The Escapist, like he went to Reddit, he went to Something Awful, and Something Awful went, "No, you're fucking stupid, get the fuck out," and just like gassed that. So like there was a point where Something Awful had kind of mellowed out. They had at one point,
I remember reading the archive forum of that when we had it was for Frederick Brennan's episode, the Gamergate. We talked about that. It was shocking to me how quickly people were in droves ready to reject Gamergate on that forum.
Yeah,
even you wouldn't expect that, like at all, especially given at what the landscape looks like now. It genuinely shocked me.
I would say Something Awful is relatively politically mature, in the sense that you can have a political discussion without someone cramering in and like calling you an insane racist. And a lot of that is like because of the $10 fee, right? And the fact that you have this like cachet of known people and like you're a known quantity with a known name, and you build this presence. Which is kind of how
I think a lot of people know this, but in case you don't, like a lot of early like weird and left Twitter characters have come out of
Something Awful. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Chapo guys were all Something Awful.
Yeah.
Like I don't have like real confirmation that like
I think so, like Drill,
yeah.
I think Fart, if you guys are familiar with Fart, all those people, yeah.
I'm gonna activate a few people in a way that they're not gonna like, and I'm gonna bring up a game called EVE Online for a hot second. Like they're just gonna sit back in the chair and go, "Man, fuck that game."
We got to talk about Goon Swarm.
We got to talk about Goon Swarm.
What is Goon Swarm? What do you mean? Oh,
so Goon,
God.
Something Awful
you can never escape goons.
You can't know.
Different kind of goon.
Had
a different one.
They used to call
they're not jacking off.
No, Something Awful forum members call themselves goons.
Okay, so the traditional goon. Okay, heart attack averted. Okay.
Heart attack averted. They're not jolting it in a basement with 12 screens.
I mean, a lot of them probably were jacking off when this was going on, but just happenstance at a certain point.
I thought it was going to be like they like all were posting together, and now we as one jack off. Where we jack off, we go all.
That's just Marcos and his roommates.
So Something Awful had it's called a corporation, EVE Online. They had a clan in EVE Online called Goon Swarm, which
first, what is EVE Online? And also I gotta ask, were you in Goon Swarm?
More than Goon Swarm until like 2 years ago. For about a year, I was a director in Goon Swarm as the propaganda director, and then
we're talking to a pro. I was
talking to a pro. I left in protest because the leader of Goon Swarm wasn't doing enough to get rid of like sex pests and perverts. And like a day later, like Goon Swarm was like repeating. Goon Swarm was repeating it, and I was like, you know what? You're not fixing this. Fuck off. I'm out. And then like 2 weeks later, the guy, people will know who he is if they've played him online. He's called the Matani, like stepped down because people were like, "Man, you're being a fucking sex." And then it was outed that he like stole his ex-wife's piano and all sorts of other weird shit.
His piano? What the fuck?
Of course.
Yeah, like she was overseas, and he like it was ex-fiance, ex-wife, and he was overseas, and like she was overseas, like stuck in Russia for some reason, and he like by the time she came back, he'd like left her and stolen their baby grand piano.
First of all, why are these people always like this? But then how do we know? Like, how do we know that who came out? Was it the ex-wife?
It just radiated uranium into your computer and made you a freak if you were on the phone for too long.
The Goon Swarm. The Goon Swarm got to you.
It's either ex-wife or ex-fiance like came out when like all this was coming out because like he had a bunch of other allegations.
Let's give the the correct context for this. What is EVE Online?
EVE Online is a really, really bad spaceship game designed by a bunch of really freakish Icelandics. It's very like it's
You could have stopped at
commonly
freakish.
called a spreadsheet simulator in space. It's very slow. Everything that dies permanently kind of game. It's been around for like as long as Something Awful. Like it's 25 years old. It's
I have
been,
to
like,
say,
one of
as
the
a
longest
person
running
who like
MMOs.
knew Something Awful well enough, I desperately was like, well, I got to figure this thing out. Is it any good? To me, this game was like worse than work. It was like going to work and watching
It's a
spaceships
chore
fight.
simulator in space.
Yeah,
It was
it's
like
a job
watching
disguised
spaceships
as a video
fight,
game.
but you don't have any agency to make the spaceships fight one another. They just kind of do it, and your
Yeah,
job is to sort
I-
of wander around and do
loved-
other boring shit.
I loved the community and I loved the friends I had. I'm never going to go play again because it's not a good game. But it's such like a sunk cost fallacy game, right? But it's a spaceship simulator MMO. You go
So
and
the
like
Something Awful clan or corporation was Goon Swarm, and there
Goon
was
Swarm.
like insane I remember reading, because you were the director of propaganda or whatever. This is like a real title, because I remember fucking years ago reading the propaganda threads, and they were very effective. I was like, I want to get in on this. This is crazy.
for about
'Cause,
a
like,
year before I
they
quit.
would-
I was the propaganda director, so I was leading like all the Photoshop Friday stuff and all that. sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
it was very effective. I was like, I gotta play it. They're like, we need Goon Swarm needs you, like World War
Oh.
II propaganda. I was like, fuck it.
During the last war we had, this is like the COVID war, as I kind of think about it, because everyone's stuck inside. They're going to start playing EVE Online again because we're all mentally ill, and it calls to us
You have
again,
to
like
do
a Green
something.
Goblin mask, right?
It's
I made up
RuneScape or EVE Online.
a lot of like psychological warfare had moved to Reddit at this point. Look, it moved to Reddit, so you have like lots of like flame wars on Reddit about stuff. And I made up a rumor that we were paying people to like downvote posts and make posts on Reddit called Reddit Swarm, and people believed me. That like, and I was like, no, we're just better posters than you fucking dogs. We're not
So
paying
you did
anyone.
like double layer
I
propaganda.
did double layer
basically.
propaganda. Yeah, they were convinced I was paying people real money to post on Reddit.
Server-wide, like civil wars and actual drama.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, the one thing, EVE itself sucks, but
Yeah.
the scale and the scope of the battles were.
You have
I've
actual
never seen anything
spying.
like it since.
You have actual people like infiltrating these other alliances and like pretending to be people that they aren't. So like they would go in and be like, "Hey, my name's Jimbo. I'm not really a goon," and they'd like work their way up, and then they'd steal shit and bring it back. Right? It's really cool, like actual like social engineering stuff. And one of these guys, to bring it back to kind of real life, real politics, his name is Vile Rat, and if you have the
man.
capability, I'd like you to Google Vile Rat Vile Tat and just look at his sick nasty tattoo, real quick.
I'm gonna do that right now. Wait, what is it
Please.
called?
Vile Rat,
Tat?
Vile Tat. So VILE.
Vile Rat, Vile Tat.
Yep. So
Oh,
he had a really
God,
cool
okay.
tattoo.
Sean Smith. Oh God, wait, is it the like dragon?
Yeah.
Okay. That
So he had
sounds
a bad tattoo.
crazy.
Who is Vile?
As I
good old
thought.
Who is Vile
Rat?
Rat? So Vile Rat was one of the spies. I think he might have been the spy master at the time. Like my memory of that. So I kind of deliberately
I just
tried
read
to
the
follow a lot up.
headline. Holy shit!
He
Oh
was
my
one
God.
of the guys killed in Benghazi.
Yes. Fuck. Oh, that's fucking crazy.
He was also
Yeah,
the
and
moderator
his,
of the
Wikipedia,
politics.
by the way. It is known for.
So wait, was he
section,
out there in
victim of the
like
US
at
consulate
Benghazi
attack in
there
So,
that
yeah,
day
he did-
playing
moderator
playing
of
EVE
Something
Online?
Awful
So
Forum,
Vile Rat-
member of the
he did,
Council
like,
of
computer
Stellar Management
stuff for
in
them.
Human
He was an
Rights.
IT guy in
Oh my
Benghazi for some
God.
reason. Why would you need an IT guy in Benghazi? Not to tinfoil hat too hard, but he was in Benghazi and had a lot of time to post online.
Correct, by the way.
But he was also the moderator of the politics subforum
Mhm.
in
he
Something Awful.
died.
And he died in Benghazi. Like people he was on comms at EVE Online. Was like, oh shit, gotta go. And then like he popped up dead the next day, which is
No way.
yeah.
What a resume. Holy
this
shit.
immediately led to Alex Jones calling Something Awful a CIA front.
Fuck. That's awesome.
Also, Vile Rat's mom became like a total red pill, like lunatic, and was on Fox News all the time.
I think so. I don't pay attention to that sort of like Fox News too much because I'm insulated in a completely different country, right? But you could also like make a non-tinfoil argument that Something Awful is a CIA front because also the founder of Bellingcat, you know, the OSINT organ, he was also a Something Awful
I
user,
remember
Brown
those
Moses.
out there, yeah.
He was also on Something Awful. So you could also make that argument.
It's wild how most important people on the internet, even to this day, seemingly spawned at Something Awful.
Yeah.
They didn't exist until Something Awful became a website.
Yeah, I think the modern
that was your woo.
leaning of Something Awful is like a bit more leftist than like it's center left really is like where I'd say for like there's the politics subforum, there's C-SPAM, which is like very more American politics, but it's also mostly occupied by people that need 3 attempts to open a one-way door. So it's not a subforum I spend a lot of time in because they are just so annoying to me. But they did have another subforum called Laissez-Faire for a bit, which VileRat made, and that's like it was a politics subforum around like made at 9/11-ish up to like 2000. Like it was alive until 2008, but that was mostly a politics subforum for posts about Ron Paul. So very libertarian.
It's crazy that there was like 12 Americans or something like that in Benghazi at that consulate.
Yeah.
And one of them was a Something Awful user in the EVE Online
and
space.
politics
What
moderator.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? Come on. That's like
so
2011 or some shit. Like, what do you mean? Like, not everyone had that brain rot, that hyper online brain rot yet. Not everyone was super online. That's just crazy. You know what? Maybe Alex Jones is right about specifically this. Maybe Something Awful is a CIA front or is some sort of front for conspiracy.
Yeah. LF,
Jesus Christ.
LF was eventually closed, doesn't exist anymore. Ostensibly, like Lotax blamed some Secret Service visits because they kept threatening Barack Obama. Not true, apparently, according to the now owner, but the main reason they were closed because they couldn't stop mocking Grover and Grover House. Like getting my subforum for like discussing gender in a way that we've only just started discussing and like leftist libertarian politics, but getting it banned because I can't stop shit talking this dude in his shit house in a swamp.
That's kind of sick.
It's like kind of beast mode.
Yeah,
but what happens is that gets like shut down, and kind of like in Ghostbusters where they shut down the ghost machine and release all the ghosts, they kind of release like nascent Bernie bros out into the wilderness.
They're just wandering. They don't know what to do anymore. Like, Bernie Sanders didn't give them the directive. He didn't say harass that woman. He didn't say that. Yeah.
He wasn't out there like, women be shopping just yet, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like basically he kind of like, so you didn't have like, basically it was like the seeds for like the start of Bernie Bro life was released when LF was shut down, as my other kind of crackpot theory. That's like, I think that's kind of
what
true.
I was going to get into is when we were talking about prepping for this episode, that was one of the points you'd made. So your theory is that once LF was banned, that's kind of when this kind of was the proto Bernie Bro forum.
I don't want to like pin it too hard, but there's like the archetype of a Bernie Bro that you're like, it's a guy with a beard and he's got like a plaid shirt and glasses and he's kind of annoying. Like the one, like imagine a Bernie Bro.
You just called me out.
Imagine a Bernie Bro, like the most like basically if you like stuck every founding member of Chapo Trap House in a fusion machine to make like one guy, right? Like that kind of deliberate guy is like apparently based off like one specific dude in LF from what I've seen, like the first like person who was ever called a Bernie Bro. So it's like, so that's interesting to me.
I don't even think that's a crackpot theory though, because I think when Something Awful started to die, maybe that community, that specific LF side of Something Awful got banned. That's what I was going to say. That's like when the spawn of weird Twitter, which eventually I feel like could be pretty easily argued that weird Twitter was like the genesis of like the weird like Bernie Bro crossover of like what's called weird Twitter and like the leftist space kind that at least is
esque.
Like
politics through shit posting.
That like kind of detached, ironic left wing style that we kind of saw take over the left wing space on Twitter. Yeah, I think that's like super. You could absolutely make that argument, and I'm right there with you.
It's like it's one of those ones where it's like, look, there's some stuff about it that makes me like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's nothing like I can't. There's no like actual solid evidence like you have with 4chan coming straight out of their say, but it's like no, they like the hand of Lotax moves through politics like a blind idiot god.
Yeah, no, it's Lotax and Moot. One's the devil, one's God, and you have to figure out which is which. I don't fucking know. They're both kind of evil, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, like some of the best, the best return on investment for $10 I've ever made was buying a Something Awful account to look at a thread about a micronation of cyborg furries that wanted to have dragon bodies with penises that look like chainsaws with wizard hats. Like that was like my first thread that I really got into, but like it's the best return on $10 I've ever had, but also low tax. You are looking up at us at the moment.
What I will say is Blue Sky sometimes gives that kind of vibe, so that community is still thriving, just in different spaces.
Yeah, definitely.
More so in the Fediverse, I think, these days, especially like when you get to like Mastodon. I feel like Mastodon is where a lot of that type of person is these days.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like Mastodon scares me. I've not even really looked at it, but it's just kind of like
I opened similarly when I went onto 2chan and scrolled around for a couple of minutes and got too scared. Same thing happened on Mastodon. I tried to make an account, got scared and confused and closed out and never went back. It's a different type of being scared, but it was scared nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm logged into my old Something Awful account right now, looking at some of my old posts, and I'm not proud of myself, guys.
Yeah.
Can you just pick a random one? Give us an example of what you were posting in like 2009.
2008, I did have a thread. So if you instead of like likes or upvotes on Reddit, you could get gold. You get like your thread would go gold or whatever.
You can rate a thread 1 to 5, and if it's rated 5, you go on hog wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going hog. I got a Hogwall gold thread when I was making chiptune covers for people on request that people really like. That was nice. That's the nicest one. But I was saying some not so nice things in there too. Nothing racist or anything like that. But just like a
2008 sort of cringe type of post.
2008 sort of edgelord cringe. Everything was I'm not real thrilled with what I'm seeing.
You got to say one. We can cut it if it's like too bad and you don't want it outed.
I'll do you one better. I'll send you my profile after this episode.
Okay.
That's been one of my profiles.
I still want you to say one because I want you to be like, I want this cut, and then Alex like bleep it. That's what I really want. I want a bleep moment. Yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to.
I'm not going to do it. Well, mostly because I'm looking through it. Just because the way that it's not really like intuitive to go through your post history or whatever. But like anyway,
the UI is never improved. The UI has been as bad as it always has.
The UI is still from 2002 or whatever.
I'll just stalk you. Just send it to me and I'll stalk everything.
I will literally give you guys I'll give you guys my old username.
Incredible. Okay.
I'll just say this: my profile picture was O.J. Simpson in the art style of The Simpsons. So it's I don't know why I thought that was funny. I saw it on a pop-up ad and it was like, oh shit!
No, I kind of fuck with it. That's good.
Yeah,
that is what got me. I'll be honest.
So there's like a weird through line to a lot of these websites, like communities being banned, having to like find they were pilgrims going to like these new websites to try to like find somewhere to post their kind of weird shit.
I can give you
in 2008.
I can give you one more.
What's the like timeline? What's the through line? What's the domino?
The domino. So really, what you do is you start with like Something Awful getting founded 25 years ago. So that's like the early 2000s. 9/11 happens, obviously.
Very important.
Very important to always acknowledge.
Without that, Benghazi wouldn't have happened. So very important.
And then what you do is you get he makes the anime spin-off sub forum. I don't actually know roughly. 2003 was when he made ADTRW, and then the Pentecost happens. And he starts banning people left, right, and center. This is, I think, 2005. Like, I just don't have a sick timeline here in front of me. But then 4chan comes out. Eventually, he makes Poll. Poll comes through, and then you get they start getting really interested in the Donald. You guys have gone over where they were treating the Donald as 4chan with a condom, and then you end up with Donald Trump in the White House, and then eventually running home with a few nuclear secrets to store in his bathroom, which is.
Maybe one of the funniest things, he just had like boxes and boxes of paper in his bathroom. Just hilarious.
Yeah. So like after like Moot steps down in like 2015, that's when things really get like the racism gets like cranked up. quite a bit. And,
Really?
like,
So him stepping down is what brought it out.
it almost
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it almost like is like just dropping more fuel on the fire. Like, short poll was pretty shit back then. Like, it was already bad. But like, I genuinely think after that, like, it just starts ramping up more and more after that point. And I don't know how much of that's
Yeah, because whatever else you want to say about Lotax, like he ran that place with a fucking iron fist. So if it was like out of line at all, even if it was like bad, he was just not. And also, I don't think politically is like Lotax, for whatever he wasn't like a Nazi. I think he was like just
more of like the classic kind of libertarian, the kind of like don't give me a license to do my own toaster kind of libertarian.
An actual libertarian, not like a guy who's afraid to say he's a Nazi, so he calls himself a libertarian. Like back, you have to understand too. Like I think I've said this a bunch of times, but back then it was actually fairly common for people to like look towards libertarianism to solve their problems because, like, if you were anti-war, pro like,
LGBTQ or whatever
of drugs or whatever, all those things, the only option was to be a libertarian. So like if you had like any social decency and were anti-war, even if you were otherwise had bad politics for certain things. Like I was a libertarian. I called myself a libertarian until I was probably about 20,
Yeah, no, it was like libertarians that weren't just pedophiles and evil did exist through like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Now it's like with that Twitter account, the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, which is like full fascist or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's not what it was like back then. It was just different.
I also want to give one final domino. It's another subtle red line, but it does contribute to a lot of your content. It is also my contention because Something Awful is the home of the invention of Let's Plays. So they started off as that's
right.
image Let's Play, like it was images and then like me typing what I was doing in Final Fantasy with my character called Buttfart, and then eventually,
Sorry, I was just going to say real quick. I was never on the website, but I was very familiar with that Let's Play crowd because of Retupre,
and then you get Danganronpa.
They were like pioneers. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Sorry, go on. Though.
In a roundabout way, even aside from like the Let's Play community and like Mega 64 and all the stuff that come from that, it did 100% spawn the first Let's Play because it was, of all people, it was Chris Chan did the first Let's Play ever recorded on
and
Animal
Kiwi
Crossing.
Farms did come from Something Awful as well. Is another bit like, but you can also just draw a red line between Let's Plays and then like your current Goonagate perverts. Like if Slow Beef had never made a Let's Play, you wouldn't have Mark Kern spending 600 grand on anime women, right?
Don't say that to me. No. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Oh my God. Does Grumps have a Something Awful account that I maybe forgot
we
about?
Found one.
Stuff in there.
We found one in the Discord, but it hasn't really posted anything. So it's like someone renamed it.
You guys are so fucking ahead of me every time I have an idea of like I look in there and then you guys are like 10 steps.
Yeah, the Grums Brigade in the Discord is like we figured this out 10 months ago. Yeah, like we were waiting for you to ask us about this. Yeah.
The Grums research division popped up with like, no, we found it, but we think maybe that was like a renamed account or something because we just can't find any posts.
That is my favorite world of like the Western Kabuki community is the Grums research arm. Like you guys are like your own like thing like in our community, and it's incredible.
It's fucking fascinating to me to like hop in there every now and then because like I'm obviously very active in there, but I don't go into there's a Grums thread. And then there's like a Grums channel specifically, but you have to be a
Gamergate super soldier to see it.
Yeah, cool dudes.
You have to be a Gamergate super soldier to be in there. It's
cool dudes only, and then dumbasses like me who have moderation privileges just show up every once in a while and are like,
yeah. But it's always just very funny to see what you guys are up to, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you have his 23andMe results, like, or whatever, you guys are on it.
So wait, okay. So, what are the chances that, like, what's the through line with Cat Turd? Did Cat Turd spawn because of any of these websites, these communities, or is he just like an amalgamation of like independent?
I don't think Cat Turd he don't think he really discovered the internet until like after this. So like the earliest that I think that I ever found of Cat Turd was like he had an old blog spot. You guys remember Blogspot?
Yeah.
And he was like a reply guy on Blogspot, and then he set up his own. But that was years and years after all this. I think that like because he's in his 50s, and
now.
So I think during this time,
60s
now, he was out because he had his cool
Oh.
band. And he was out just gigging and crushing puss at shows and having a good time.
I love Cat Turd, and this isn't even the first time he's been hospitalized for being literally full of shit.
Yeah,
The first
I forgot
time-
about that.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah,
time it
he does,
happened, he got
yeah.
a signed, his tweet about it got printed off and signed by Donald Trump and sent to his hospital.
Yeah. Donald Trump
Yeah.
acknowledged him in like 2022.
Donald Trump saying, "Get well soon, Cat Turd."
Imagine having to write that. Like Trump was building this movement of like online schizos since like 2021. I mean, long before that, but he never abandoned the online
He leaned
schizos.
into it.
But I mean, a huge part of like
He leaned
the
into
fucking weird red-pilled lunatics, they all came from Paul in 4chan, which was again, like you described earlier about people being ironic until they weren't. I think a lot of Paul was people being nihilist, ironic edgelords about politics, and then a bunch of normies showed up and were like, "Oh, these guys have the same politics I do," or they're like, "I like these incredibly racist ideas."
Yeah. Well, it's the whole God. If you're talking about nihilism, that's the whole God is dead thing that Nietzsche was like trying to warn against. Is like when we kill God, what do we fill that hole with? And in
We
a way, that's
fill
kind of
them
like
with
what low
pepes.
tax is like the last barrier against. So these people come in there and they see all this shit and they're like, yeah, this is my identity now. This, which is why, I mean, like, not funny. Like, to pivot to something more seriously, you have a black 17-year-old who shoots up a school as a white supremacist because because of 4chan.
I was going through that
Like, would not have
manifesto
happened.
this morning, and I was like losing my mind. I woke up a little early today, and I couldn't fall back asleep. So I spent like an hour, like I read that whole manifesto, and like there's so much you
Yeah.
like can just not repeat. Like no one can ever repeat some of the things this 17-year-old wrote down. And I was thinking about that literally earlier today. I'm glad that we're talking about like that nihilism, because it's kind of like it's driving so much of this really extreme right-wing red pill ideology. Nihilism is the starting point of a lot of these people, and it's making, I mean, the femcell shooter arguably is a very similar vein as this Nashville shooter, like
Yeah,
this
completely.
nihilistic worldview of like the internet, this like that's now become what Twitter is, and like it's driving
It's
people
why
like
people
this crazy.
become Christians when they don't even believe in God. They just want the dogma because they have to have
Yeah.
something.
And if that means saying awful things about yourself because you're black, I don't know. I guess that's where it drives certain people, and it's insane. It was, it's depressing to read. It was stressful.
Yeah, it's pretty
yeah.
heartbreaking that
It's,
a kid
really horrible.
that young would be thinking that kind of stuff about himself.
It's not great to see this like weird acceleration.
Well,
yeah.
that's a very terrible way to end this episode. But before we do, Cameron, do you have anything you want to
yeah,
plug?
I guess I will plug my own bits real quick. So you can find me on Blue Sky. I don't
Mhm.
really use Twitter for anything other than arguing with people. Don't follow me there. So you can follow me. Like my main Blue Sky profile is MLYP.bluesky.social. It's mostly just me giving myself like new usernames like Casper the Ghost Exorcism and like Pepperoni Steve. It's just a bit that I'm committing
That's a
to
good
for a
one.
bit.
Yeah, we're big fans of
Like
that around
yeah,
here.
and then the podcast has an account. It's $10. So that's 10BUX .bluesky.social. I post about like most of the Something Awful stuff there. I separate the two. I don't have anything else major to plug. Other than I just want people listening to this to like to remind themselves like be kind to yourself because no one else will. Like we talk about a lot of heavy stuff, but things will get better. It's all good.
Thank you for leading us through like what shaped the internet, like all the different like zones and pulling that together and coming out in the end being like nihilism will destroy us all. Nihilism will destroy your brain. Because I think that's true. You know, I feel like in some ways it built the left-wing sphere, but like that we know today, but it also created like Nick Fuentes and all these people. So
Yeah, we have to use that messaging going forward throughout all of 2025, I think, is to be anti-nihilist, because that's very important.
100% agree.
Fill that hole with
But
something.
look, if you guys want me to come
Anyway.
back on and talk to you about the child destroying zipline or something like that at some other point, then I'm always down. But
Dude.
I'm covering them.
I'm going to be so real with you, Cameron. There's going to be some week a few months from now where it's going to be like, oh, we had somebody, a guest cancel, or it's like, I don't, what the fuck do we want to talk about this week? I'm depressed over our usual pervert fucking shit that we're doing. I'm probably going to hit you up and be like, let's talk about the zip line, or let's talk about the
The racist hot dog vendor will be such a great conversation. Yeah, I'm always down, but
or there's like, we really could talk. And we last time we talked about something awful, we did this too, where it's like, there's so many fucking hilarious stories that we should at one point just do a story hour from like back in the old man internet.
Yeah,
days.
I think we've been kind of talking about something like that, just specifically an episode of essentially reminiscing about the old days for over a year at this point.
Like, I quite literally have a spreadsheet where I just started cataloging all of the stories that people would like bring up to me, because I'd mentioned it to another goon that I was working on it. I have 88 stories, like 89 stories on this spreadsheet. Like, I have so many things that I can always just come in and give you guys a comedy hour on. So
shout out Goon Swarm.
Yeah.
Time to jack off tonight.
Everyone get in fleet. We're going to jack off in the space game. Let's go.
Christ. Oh, God damn it. All right. Cameron, thank you so much for giving us an hour or more of your time at this point. I genuinely appreciate it. Everybody, please listen to Cameron's podcast. All this for $10.
Yeah, that's the one.
Incredible.
Okay. We'll see you.